Every so often, a moment unfolds in American politics that doesn't just make headlines. It becomes a cultural earthquake, a story retold in classrooms, living rooms, and late-night talk shows for years to come. The night President Donald Trump yelled at former President Barack Obama to get out. In the East Room of the White House was one of those moments. It was a collision of personalities, egos, and visions for the country, all under the blinding lights of a nation's attention. But what truly set the night apart wasn't the outburst itself. It was Obama's response. A reply so measured and powerful that it didn't just silence a room. It sent shockwaves across America. The East Room was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Senators, governors, journalists, and staffers filled every seat, their eyes darting between the two men at the center of the storm. The event had been billed as a night for unity, a rare attempt to bridge the ever-widening chasm in Washington. Invitations had promised speeches on cooperation and healing. But even the most optimistic guests knew that bringing Trump and Obama together was like mixing fire and ice and hoping for a gentle rain. The tension was palpable, a living thing that seemed to pulse with every whispered conversation and every nervous glance. Cameras were everywhere, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes. Social media was already buzzing, with hashtags trending before a single word had been spoken. The world was watching, waiting for something to happen. And in that room, history was about to be written, not with a pen, but with a clash of words and wills. Obama entered first, his presence calm and unhurried. He moved with the quiet confidence of a man who had weathered storms before, who understood the weight of the moment, but refused to be defined by it. He shook hands, nodded to old friends and rivals alike, and took his seat with a composure that seemed to settle the room. If only for a moment. Trump arrived minutes later. Flanked by aides and Secret Service, his jaw set and his eyes scanning the crowd. He was the sitting president, but tonight the room felt less like his domain, and more like a stage set for a confrontation. The two men exchanged a brief, cool nod. No handshake, no words. The silence between them was louder than any greeting. Dinner was served, but few paid attention to the food. Conversations were stilted, laughter forced. Reporters typed furiously, capturing every glance, every shift in body language. The anticipation was electric, the sense that something was about to break almost overwhelming. Finally, the moment arrived. Obama was invited to speak first. He rose, adjusted his tie, and approached the podium. The applause was polite, but the room was tense, every ear straining for the first sign of conflict. Obama began in his trademark style, measured, thoughtful, weaving together stories of American resilience, the importance of institutions, and the need for leaders to put country before ego. He spoke of unity, not as a naive dream, but as a hard-won achievement, something that required courage, humility, and the willingness to listen. History will not measure us by how loudly we speak, Obama said, his voice steady, but by whether we listened, by whether we chose courage over chaos, unity over division. Heads nodded. Some smiled. Others, especially those close to Trump, sat stone-faced, their arms crossed. Trump's reaction was immediate. He shifted in his seat, drumming his fingers on the table, his eyes narrowing. His aides exchanged worried glances, sensing the storm brewing. Obama continued, his words calm but pointed. This nation is bigger than one man's pride. It is stronger than any one personality, and it will endure so long as we remember that truth. The air thickened. Even seasoned politicians leaned forward, sensing the moment. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion. Then as Obama finished his remarks, Trump abruptly stood. His chair screeched against the marble floor, silencing the room. He pointed at Obama, his voice rising above the stunned silence. "Get out!" Trump shouted, the words echoing off the gilded walls. The room froze. Gasps erupted. Journalists scrambled to record the moment. Senators paused mid-bite, forks suspended in the air. Diplomat whispered, "Did he really just say that?" Obama stood still, unflinching, his hands resting lightly on the podium. His silence stretched over the chaos, commanding the room without a word. Time seemed to slow. Trump's aides rushed to his side, whispering frantically. Staff tried to calm guests, but it was too late. The words were out, captured by every camera in the room. The East Room, a place of history and tradition, now held a new kind of tension. Unity Night had become something else entirely, a public showdown, raw and unscripted. But the real story was just beginning. Obama's reply would turn tense silence into an unforgettable moment, one that would be replayed, analyzed, and debated for years to come. The room still buzzed from Trump's outburst. Reporters whispered, aides shuffled, guests avoided eye contact. It wasn't just the shock of a sitting president yelling, "Get out!" at his predecessor. It was the raw, unfiltered drama, the sense that the old rules no longer applied. Obama, unmoving, leaned closer to the microphone. His tone was steady, almost gentle. "Mr. President," he began, eyes never leaving Trump, "this room doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the American people." A crushing silence followed. A cameraman lowered his equipment, stunned. Obama continued, "I was invited here just as you were to speak on unity. And if unity makes you this uncomfortable, maybe it says more about where we are as a country than anything I could ever say tonight." The line cut through the tension like a knife. Murmurs erupted. A senator mouthed, "Wow." Phones already recording captured every second. Trump bristled, lips pressed hard. He gestured to an aide to cut the mic, but staff hesitated, unwilling to silence a former president on live TV. Obama glanced at the crowd, then back at Trump. "You can ask me to leave," he said, calm but firm. "But you can't erase what needs to be heard." The East Room erupted with thunderous applause. Some guests stood, the sound nearly drowning out the frantic pacing of Trump's aides. Obama slightly raised a hand, asking for calm, his composure amplifying the power of his words. "This isn't about me and it isn't about you," he said, softening his tone. "It's about every American family watching tonight. Families tired of leaders treating politics like a grudge match. Families who care about their kids growing up safe, about affordable health care, about their voices meaning something." Trump, furious, shifted in place. The applause kept building, even from previously hesitant guests. Obama leaned in, his voice unwavering. "The truth, Mr. President, is that history won't remember how loudly we shouted each other down. It will remember whether we stood up when it mattered, whether we chose dignity or chaos, whether we built something lasting or left behind nothing but bitterness." The crowd quieted, not in fear, but in respect. Obama's words landed like a drumbeat. Trump finally roared, "You're here to embarrass me. That's all this is." His voice cracked, the anger raw and unfiltered. Obama didn't blink. "I'm here to remind you that the presidency is bigger than one man's pride, bigger than my pride, bigger than yours. And the minute we forget that, we all lose." The room was electric. Even political opponents recognized the force of his delivery. He hadn't shouted or insulted, just spoken, and the words carried immense weight. Cameras zoomed in on his calm face. Social media lit up. Millions reacted in real time. The energy shifted. Guests leaned closer. Even Trump's aides looked torn, caught between loyalty and the gravity of the moment. Obama adjusted the microphone. "You can shout all you want," he said quietly, "but leadership isn't measured by volume. It's measured by character." Another wave of applause, stronger now, swept through the room. Trump's face reddened, jaw tight. He tried to speak, but applause drowned him out. Obama waited, then closed. "My message tonight is simple. We don't heal this country by tearing each other down. We heal it by remembering that we all serve something greater than ourselves." The words echoed, a powerful challenge. As powerful as that moment was, it was only the beginning. Obama's final comeback would shake the nation. Applause had barely died when Trump lunged forward, gripping his table, flushed, eyes darting between cameras and Obama. Overshadowed in his own White House, he bellowed, "You think you're some kind of saint, don't you? You come in here into my house and act like you've got the answers to everything. I'm the president, not you. Not anymore. Me." Gasps rippled through the audience. Journalists scribbled furiously. Obama simply watched, calm as stone, letting the outburst settle. His stillness amplified Trump's raw anger. Trump jabbed a finger. "You had your time, 8 years, and what did we get? A mess. Now you waltz back in here like you're some kind of savior." "Get out! I said get out!" He repeated the phrase louder. The audience shifted uncomfortably. "This is madness," a guest muttered. Cameras captured Trump's trembling hand. Obama's calm. Obama finally spoke quietly. "Mr. President, the White House doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the American people, and they deserve better than this display." This only enraged Trump more. He turned to the audience, arms wide. "See this? He's trying to humiliate me on national television. It's disgraceful." A senator hesitated to intervene. Trump slammed his hand. "Security. I want him out of here." Secret Service agents, however, didn't move. Removing a former president on live television was unthinkable. The crowd felt it. Trump had lost control. His authority cracked. Obama leaned into the microphone. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here because the people who invited me believe this country deserves a conversation about unity, dignity, leadership. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe the question isn't about me. It's about why you feel so threatened by the idea of unity." A collective gasp, then applause, drowning out Trump's protests. "Sit down!" Trump roared, his voice cracking. Obama straightened, waiting calmly while Trump fumed, muttering to helpless aides. Cameras captured the red-faced president and the steady former president, delivering words of reason. "Respect isn't demanded," Obama said, his tone like steel and velvet. "It's earned. And right now, the American people are watching to see who among us understands that truth." The applause grew stronger, as if the audience had chosen a side. Trump shouted, "This is my presidency, my event. I won't be lectured by you." Obama tilted his head slightly, almost pitying. "Your presidency, Mr. President, belongs to the people, not to you. That's the first thing every leader should understand." The audience stirred. This wasn't a dinner. It was a clash of two leadership visions. Trump slammed the table again. "I said get out," but it sounded hollow, desperate. Then a voice from the crowd, a governor, broke the tension. "Let him speak." Others picked it up. Soon half the room chanted, drowning out Trump, who froze, stunned. "Let him speak," swelled through the East Room. Trump slammed his palm, red-faced, barking, "This is my house, mine." But his words were buried. The cameras captured Trump's fury, the crowd's defiance, Obama's composure. Obama waited patiently, steady as a mountain. When the chant died, the silence was deafening, filled with expectation. Obama leaned closer to the microphone, voice calm. "We are standing in the people's house, not one man's stage, not one party's theater. This is the people's house, and the people," he paused, scanning, "deserve to be heard." The audience erupted again, clapping and cheering, steady, unified. Trump waved his arms, voice breaking. "Fake news! They'll spin this!" A journalist shouted. "Mr. President, they don't have to spin anything. The cameras are live." The crowd laughed sharply, piercing Trump more than any insult. Obama seized the moment. "No one came here tonight to watch two men shout each other down. They came here because they believe this country is capable of more. They believe we can sit at the same table even when we disagree and find a way forward." He gestured toward Trump. "Leadership is not about volume. It's about vision. You can command a room with anger, or you can guide it with dignity. The choice is yours, but one choice lasts longer than the other." The words resonated deeply, echoing through the East Room and out into the world beyond. Social media was ablaze. Clips of Obama's calm, unwavering delivery and Trump's red-faced fury were already circulating, sparking debates and memes. The hashtags "Let him speak" and "Dignity over volume" trended within minutes. News anchors interrupted regular programming to cut live to the White House, their voices tinged with disbelief and excitement. For a moment, the nation seemed to hold its breath, watching two visions of leadership collide in real time. Inside the room, the energy had shifted. Even some of Trump's staunchest allies looked away, uncomfortable with the spectacle. Obama, meanwhile, stood at the center of the storm, unshaken. He let the applause fade, then spoke again, his voice softer but no less commanding. "We don't move this country forward by silencing each other. We move it forward by listening, by learning, by remembering that disagreement is not a threat. It's a sign of a healthy democracy." Trump, still standing, tried to regain control. "This is a setup. You're all against me," he barked, but the words sounded smaller now, swallowed by the room's collective focus on Obama. Guests exchanged glances, some sympathetic, others exasperated. A senator whispered, "He's unraveling." Aides hovered, unsure whether to intervene or simply let the moment pass. Obama didn't strike back. He waited, letting the silence stretch, then continued. Anger is easy. Blame is easy. But when the anger fades, what will you have left? What will history remember, that you shouted the loudest, or that you chose to rise above it? The question hung in the air, unanswered but impossible to ignore. Trump's face was a mask of frustration. He turned to the audience, searching for support but found only uncertainty. He's disrespecting the office, he shouted. A voice from the crowd called back, Respect has to be earned. The words landed with the force of a gavel. Obama nodded, acknowledging the sentiment. I spent 8 years in this office, Obama said, his tone reflective. I know the burden, the sleepless nights, the loneliness. But you cannot lead a nation if you are ruled by your temper. You cannot unite a country if every criticism feels like an attack. Leadership requires patience. It requires humility. The East Room was dead quiet. Even the cameras seemed to pause, their operators transfixed. Trump muttered into the mic, You think you're so perfect. Obama shook his head. I made plenty of mistakes. But the measure of a leader isn't whether he makes mistakes, it's whether he learns from them. And the measure of a nation isn't whether it has disagreements. It's whether it can rise above them. The words hung heavy. Trump stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. This is over. I won't let him humiliate me. Secret Service didn't move. Obama leaned into the mic one last time. With all due respect, Mr. President, the people watching tonight aren't judging me. They're judging you. And the question they'll ask themselves tomorrow isn't, what did Obama say? It will be, how did Trump react? The crowd gasped. Trump froze, twitching with fury, finally silent. Reporters typed furiously. Hashtags lit up. The people aren't judging me, they're judging you. Obama calmly sipped water, then added, The presidency is temporary. Character is permanent. Applause exploded. People rose to their feet. Trump's fist clenched, searching for control, but it was gone. Obama had seized the room with quiet authority. The East Room was Obama's classroom. But outside, the country was reacting. Newsrooms scrambled for analysis. One analyst said, Obama didn't just win that room. He won the narrative. Trump's allies spun, but were drowned out by viral posts of, History will remember who told the truth and who tried to silence it. That sentence appeared on T-shirts, murals, and in editorials across the country. By midnight, comedians prepped monologues. The Daily Show spliced Trump yelling with Obama sipping water. SNL writers scrambled. Jimmy Fallon joked it was the first time politicians wanted a speech to continue. For ordinary Americans, it was a raw, true moment revealing power dynamics. It was about character. In Washington, the battle wasn't over. Trump and his allies plotted to reclaim the narrative. The White House communications team held emergency meetings. Trump decided to tweet, Obama came to disrespect the presidency. Total disgrace. Fake media won't show it. Networks divided. Fox blasted Obama. CNN and CNBC framed it as statesmanship. The narrative leaned Obama's way. His words were simple, resonant. Trump's defense was fake news. Republican strategists worried, You can't outspin calm dignity. Democrats capitalized. Fundraising emails with decency as strength. Teachers printed quotes for classrooms. Obama stayed silent, amplifying the impact. Political analysts called it rope-a-dope. Trump couldn't stay silent. At a rally, he ranted about disrespect, but supporters were subdued. Clips looked desperate next to Obama's calm. Talk radio debated, late-night hosts fanned flames. Beams contrasted them. The more Trump fought, the deeper the contrast. Historians said, Obama may have just written his post-presidency legacy with one sentence. The narrative war had political consequences. Polls showed independents swinging negative on Trump's temperament. 62% saw Obama as more presidential. Grassroots movements launched Dignity First campaigns. Civil rights leaders tied Obama's words to justice. Trump's team tried edited videos, but fact-checkers debunked them. International leaders admired Obama's composure. Russian media framed it as division. Families argued. Offices debated. Pastors quoted, The narrative battle was everywhere. Trump fought, but Obama held the high ground. The real weight was in the lasting impression and moral lesson. Trump attempted to take back the spotlight, raising his voice at rallies. But the memory of the East Room felt different. His loudness represented disorder, while Obama's calmness showed strength. Obama allowed the moment to unfold, and his quietness highlighted the difference. The story wasn't just about one person beating another. It served as a lesson. True power doesn't always shout. Respect comes from being calm, patient, and brave. It turned into a tale of two men facing off. One yelled, the other remained composed. The country reflected on what real leadership looks like. In the days that followed, the East Room confrontation became more than just a viral moment. It became a national mirror. Americans replayed the footage, dissected every word, and debated what it meant for the country's future. The story was everywhere, on cable news, in podcasts, in family group chats, and on the lips of late-night comedians. But beneath the noise, something deeper was happening. People weren't just talking about who won the exchange. They were asking what kind of leadership the country truly needed. Obama's words, "The presidency is temporary, character is permanent," echoed far beyond the White House. Teachers wrote it on classroom boards. Parents quoted it at the dinner table. Even some of Trump's supporters, though reluctant to admit it, found themselves reflecting on the difference between power and respect. The confrontation had exposed a fault line in American politics, but it had also offered a glimpse of something better, a politics rooted in dignity, patience, and the courage to listen. Trump, meanwhile, refused to let the moment go. He tweeted late into the night, railing against the fake media and accusing Obama of orchestrating a setup. His allies flooded the airwaves, insisting the president had been ambushed. But the more they protested, the more the public remembered Obama's calm, his refusal to be baited, and the way he had turned a moment of chaos into a lesson in composure. In the weeks that followed, the confrontation became a case study in leadership. Business schools analyzed it, law professors assigned it, community leaders referenced it in speeches about conflict resolution. The phrase "let him speak" became a rallying cry for those demanding civility in public discourse. And as the story spread, it inspired a new wave of activism. People organizing town halls, students launching dignity dialogues, and faith leaders calling for a return to respectful debate. The White House, for its part, tried to move on. New controversies erupted. New headlines grabbed attention. But the memory of that night lingered. Staffers whispered about the shift in the president's mood, the way he seemed more isolated, more defensive. Some wondered if the confrontation had marked a turning point, not just for Trump, but for the country itself. Obama, true to form, stayed mostly silent. He declined interviews, avoided public comment, and let the moment speak for itself. But those close to him said he understood the significance of what had happened. He knew it wasn't about scoring points, one aide remarked. It was about reminding people what leadership can look like, even when it's hard. As months passed, the confrontation's impact only grew. Polls showed a surge in public demand for civility and character in politics. Candidates in both parties were asked to weigh in on the East Room exchange, forced to define their own approach to leadership. Editorials called for a new era of quiet strength, and the phrase "character is permanent" became a touchstone for a nation searching for its moral compass. The story even crossed borders. International leaders referenced the moment in speeches about democracy and the rule of law. In classrooms from Berlin to Nairobi, students watched clips of the exchange as part of lessons on American government. The world had seen America at its most divided, but also at its most resilient. For many, the confrontation was a reminder that the presidency and the country belonged to the people, not to any one individual. It was a lesson in humility, a call to rise above the noise, and a challenge to every American to demand more from their leaders. The applause that had filled the East Room that night was more than just a reaction to a clever line. It was an affirmation of the values that bind a nation together. In the end, the night Trump yelled at Obama to get out became more than a headline. It became a parable, a story about anger and patience, about the difference between holding power and earning respect. It was a moment when America looked in the mirror and asked, who are we and who do we want to be? Obama's final words lingered, not just in the East Room, but in the hearts of millions. "I'll leave when I'm finished speaking." And when history looks back, it won't ask who shouted. It'll ask who stood with dignity, The applause that followed was not just for him, but for the idea that even in the most divided times, dignity could still win the day. As the cameras faded and the guests filed out, the story was just beginning. In homes across the country, parents talked to their children about what they had seen. Teachers asked students to write essays on leadership. Neighbors who had stopped speaking over politics found common ground in the hope that maybe the country could heal. And so, the legacy of that night endures not as a clash of egos, but as a testament to the enduring power of character. In a world that often rewards the loudest voice, America was reminded that sometimes the strongest leader is the one who listens, who stands firm, and who refuses to be pulled down by anger. The East Room confrontation will be remembered not just for the drama, but for the lesson it taught, that true leadership is measured not by how loudly you shout, but by how deeply you inspire. And in that moment, as the nation watched, America was driven not off the edge, but toward a new understanding of what it means to lead.